So our next presenter is Jason Reed from Fortitude Gold. Jason's been kind enough to come and present once a year. Another story that, the predecessor company I covered, I think it was like 2006. Does that sound about right? Yeah, about 2006. I tend to hang around in things a long time. This is a really frustrating story given gold where it's at, and I think as Jason will point out, it's been difficult to get permitting done, which is kind of unconscionable to me. But hopefully, now with some different things happening at the federal level, I think what we're hoping here is that they'll be able to get some of the permitting done that they've already have submitted. And, my view is that kind of an event would be a big catalyst for the stock. I think it would certainly be a big catalyst for the company. And, I don't know how much Jason can or would share about it. Not much, probably, but, it could happen any day, I suppose. And so, to me, the stock has gotten beat up largely over a period of time because of some of these things, and some of it because of the results of some of that. But again, I feel like there's a permitting catalyst coming, and when it happens, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to drive the stock, because from a valuation perspective, I think the stock's already discounted beyond the fair value by far. But again, I think that catalyst is out there, and in the meantime, I think they're going to keep executing as they have all along. And so I think from where the stock's at right now, I think there's a really profound opportunity here. Oh, and also, you need to stick around at the end, because they have donated 2 silver rounds to raffle off. Actually, they brought 3, but I'm putting 1 in my pocket. It's not negotiable, but they will raffle off the last 2. So there you go.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Dave, thanks again for the opportunity to present. Hopefully we shed some light on a more optimistic future, in the fact that we do have a path to getting permits, which is great. I will be making forward-looking statements. I encourage you to become familiar with the risk factors here, as well as in our 10K. I will also say that if there's any ardent Biden supporters in the crowd, this is your trigger warning. And this, if that's the case, you might want to get up and get a coffee early. So we have exposure to gold. We produce gold. We do continue to pay a dividend. We're very proud of that. We did cut it. I can discuss why, but we're very proud of that, because very few juniors actually pay a dividend. Still financially solid. We have 0 debt. We have 0 equipment financing. I'll show you the specifics later. End of year 2024, 27 million. Obviously, I can't call when these conferences come around. We file tomorrow, and so this will be updated tomorrow. Now, we have future mine builds. We've had 2 projects in the permitting phase for most of the entire Biden administration. And had Harris won, we would not have gotten those in the next 4 years. So thankfully, she didn't, and we have a path now to get these permits. I could talk to you after the break on all the runaround we got from the previous administration as to why they weren't going to give us our permits. We also are establishing a new resource in our operating mine. Experience management, I recognize a few of you in the crowd, but for those who don't know us, we have been in the industry a while. We've worked with a different company where we had a decade of gold production. We had 10 consecutive years of profitability, 4 of which were through a brutal bear market. We generated over $1 billion in revenue. We distributed $116 million back to our shareholders in the form of the dividends. And we built 2 mining units and 4 mines. So we know a little bit about the space. Overview, we run a unique business strategy for this space. Most juniors don't pay a dividend. A lot of the majors don't pay a dividend. We're trying to garner both an equity and a yield valuation. Management, I mentioned, we're in a premier mining jurisdiction. Now, obviously, federal government drives everything, and when you're in a rough federal environment, there's only so much you can do, but Nevada is still a premier mining jurisdiction. Any investment in the future, in any mine, anywhere in the world, that should be your first question. What jurisdiction are you in? Because they're becoming increasingly scarce. We produce gold from an open pit heap leach, high grade, and what I meant by that, I'll have some slides later that speak to grade if you're not familiar with grade in gold mines. But so many of our peers chase 0.5 gram, and you'll see that. We're looking at stuff that's a gram or higher. And then obviously the dividend focus. Our strategy is simple. We target projects with low operating costs, strong return on capital, and high margins. Grow organically, remain debt-free, and distribute substantial dividends. We keep a tight capital structure from which to distribute dividends. If you compare our capital structure to even juniors in the space, we have just 24 million shares outstanding. Junior explorers have hundreds of millions of shares outstanding. Producers have 500 million shares outstanding. We have just 24 million shares outstanding. We still pay 12 cents annually. We pay per month, so 1 cent. We're just proud of that. Obviously, we say all the time, dividends are not to be considered a guarantee, and our shareholders experience that along with the share price pullback. Those who are sitting in this audience today who says, hey, I invest countercyclically, should be listening. Project pipeline. Isabella Pearl is in production. We have in development County Line, Scarlet North, and Golden Mile. Both County Line and Golden Mile have been in the permitting phase for years now under a very difficult previous administration that did not want any resources moving forward. During that time, we discovered Scarlet North, and that actually, I believe, will slip in between County Line and Golden Mile. But we need this new administration to truly take the reins so we can get another NOI to explore, because as we were drilling Scarlet, we were in gold, but we couldn't drill beyond our 5 acres and we had to stop. So we're looking forward to getting a new notice of intent is what it's called, NOI, to drill. Delineation and exploration, I'll touch on each of these. But we have, I believe, the best property portfolio of anybody in Nevada. We were picking these properties up back in the last brutal bear market when nobody else was looking. How much time do I have, Dave? 15 total?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep moving. We're gold dominant. We do produce some silver. We use it as a credit against cost, but we're a gold company. Milestones. So if we rewind, I'll talk about just a few of these I've highlighted. 2018, we received our mine permit under Trump. We got this thing in production from groundbreaking in 10 months, building an entire facility. Should have been 6, but we were dealing with an awful contractor. We had to rebuild things, some of which twice, but we still got into production in 10 months. We did what we said we were gonna do, ramp up to 40,000 ounces and produce that. And that's the level we were on. Now our business plan was to bring additional mines into production and layer it. So Isabella Pearl goes into production, then County Line, then Golden Mile. Had that been the case, I believe had Trump stayed in office his second term, we would not only have County Line in production, Golden Mile would be in production by now. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And we experienced over the next several years a permit backlog. You can look at me today and say, nah, that was just you guys. No, Rio Tinto wrote an op-ed article to the President of the United States, Trump, when he got back in saying, please fix the backlog. One of the largest mining companies in the world is reaching out saying, you gotta fix this problem that the Biden administration created. So while we are suffering during the backlog, tough times. Anybody who's followed us has watched me present here for years saying, hey, we hope we get our permits. Thankfully, Trump's back in. Had he not, we'd be an exploration stage company probably this year, because I don't believe we'd ever get another permit. So now that he is, we're focused mainly on County Line. That's the next mine we want to put in production. But we are very focused on getting all the permits we can under the Trump administration in case it goes back the other way. So that's reflected in our production. We reached our 40,000 ounce target early in 2021, 22, 23. That's when we should have been layering County Line on. But starting to build Golden Mile. None of that happened. Why? Permit backlog. Affected the entire industry. It affected everybody in the resource space. not only mining, but oil and gas everywhere. So as we look forward, until we actually get the permits, we're not even giving guidance. And we haven't for the last year plus. How do you give guidance when you don't know when the permit's gonna drop in? How do you set a point, stake a flag in the ground, if you will, from which to move off of? So until we get that, now, again, we got a permit under Trump, we will get these permits. It's just he's got a lot on his plate. I wish he would focus on mining, but he'll get around to it. And after that, we're target County Line, Golden Mile, and Scarlet North. Coming back to grade, I mentioned I'd talk to you grade. There's a lot of people in this room, I'm sure, have no idea what's high grade, what's low grade, but so many of the mines in the US, these are the open pit mines, either active or historic in the gray bars. Notice the red dotted line, their average is around 0.5. It highlights how special our projects are. Isabella Pearl was an outlier. It was hands down the outlier. We'll be fortunate to find another one of those in the future, but look at Golden Mile and County Line, where they situate with other open pit gold mines in the country. They're on the far left, that's a good thing. So as we look at County Line, that's our next targeted mine build. It's been in the permitting phase. Fortunately, we have a new administration. And also, Trump just signed an executive order to expedite those. We're all unsure of kind of what that's gonna look like, but I love that he's not only going the other direction, he's looking to expedite it. If we look at County Line, 2 pits, we're gonna mine them both. We're gonna truck this ore down the road to our Isabella Pearl facility for processing. This is getting into production as fast as possible. We don't have to build an infrastructure here. We don't have to build a process. There's some infrastructure, roads and such, but we don't have to build a process, which is great. So we should be able to really hit the ground running. Remember what I said earlier, we got our Isabella Pearl production in 10 months building everything. This, we're not building anything. So we should be able to hit the ground quickly once we get permission. Shifting gears to Golden Mile, it too is in the permitting phase. Unfortunately, it kind of came out from the BLM, Biden's BLM, that they didn't look at it for the last 2 years. Fun stuff. How do you operate in that environment? So we're basically starting from scratch on Golden Mile. But we're under an administration that wants to expedite things. With Golden Mile, we want, it's a little farther away. We can't direct ship ore, so we want to pull gold to carbon, put carbon in super sacks, and haul that to our Isabella Pearl for final processing. That will expedite construction as well, because you're not building as big a process, and keep capital costs down. Now this schematic right here with all these tanks and stuff, it's all been paid for, it's all been built, and it sits at our laydown yard in Isabella Pearl. We fully intended to have this in production by now, had we not had to deal with Biden. But we did. So as soon as we get permission here, we can hit the ground running, because we bought $13+ million worth of equipment that's sitting in our laydown yard, ready to go. Golden Mile, just to highlight the fact that 0.5 is an average grade that a lot of companies chase. Look at some of these high grade snips of Golden Mile. And those are phenomenal grades when you get 6 meters of over an ounce. Again, it's not gonna average this, but you have to have that high grade within a deposit to really make it special. Exploration. We have 8 Nevada high grade properties, all of which have either been drilled or have surface samples of high grade gold. So we're not just saying that. They all have been tested to limited extents, some to more extensive extents. But we're focused in the Walker Lane mineral belt, where most of our properties are within trucking distance to our Isabella Pearl project, which is great, because we can have a synergistic approach, and that's our goal going forward. But we also picked up another one that's more west central, but we own all of them 100%. If we just look at Isabella Pearl, and if I stood here today and said, all we have is Isabella Pearl, I'd be very excited. Isabella Pearl is an awesome trend. If we look off trend, and you can see the actual photo up in the upper right, that's the historic reclaimed Santa Fe that did over 300,000 ounces. There's other deposits behind that. So this is a definitive trend. Isabella Pearl's on that trend. We own 10 kilometers of claim block. So we picked most of this up when nobody else was looking. We truly believe we'll find more deposits here. We just need to be here long enough to find them. We may have found it at Scarlet, right next door, 700 meters away. while we had all this downtime where we should have been building mines but couldn't get a permit, we did find Scarlet. It's 800 meters away from the open pit. And again, this is the one where I told you we had one NOI and we could drill out to the edge of that and that's it. We ended it in high-grade gold. So as soon as we get permission, we're gonna keep drilling that, look for the minimum number of ounces we need to make a production decision and go. And then start trucking this ore to Isabella Pearl. Scarlet North, again, when you keep in mind 0.5 is the typical, it's getting some plus gram hits, which is awesome. I took this picture literally standing, looking back at the pit, just to show you how close it is. So this is, this will be a slam dunk once we have the ability to go in and drill some more. I think this will fall into place right after county line. It also has expansion potential to the northeast. Where I was standing is in this lower right, left ellipse for you guys. The expansion potential is up and to the right. And we have a lot of high-grade gold up there. So again, keep in mind in the bigger picture, this is a trend where there's past mines, our current mine, we own 10 kilometers going up this trend. I'm gonna shift gears, go to East Camp Douglas. I'm gonna move pretty quick through these so I can field some questions. But on East Camp, this is home run potential for us. Has a mineralized lithocap. Probably doesn't mean much to you guys. Lithocaps can be million-ounce per deposits. So when you have a lithocap, in and of itself doesn't mean much, but when you have one with high grade, it means something. So we have one of these. So the lithocap is circled in blue on the south. We also have these high grades on the north, the high grade veins, excuse me. So we think we have both styles of mineralization. And again, working to get permits to continue to explore this, but this would be the game changer for the company. This would be the not, oh, I got 2, 3, 4 years in front of us. This would be 10 plus years. And I obviously hope to have a tight capital structure with a big dividend along with it. But this is the kind of thing that would be a game changer for us. We own it 100%. Jeff Hedenquist, he's the foremost epithermal geologist in the world. That's this style of deposit. He actually put together this slide, which shows our lithocap in relation to other multi-million ounce lithocaps. So again, we're sitting in a pretty strong position where we have a lithocap, sizable. There's not too many of these in Nevada. I'm only aware of one other. The other one isn't mineralized, ours is. So this is exciting for me because this would be a game changer for the company. Minor gold, we drilled some high grade in patented ground. It goes off the patented ground. This is lower on our totem pole, so we're not doing anything or focused on this at this point, but someday we will. We also had a couple acquisitions recently. Dauntless is one of them. This historically, if you do some research on Dauntless, it was one of the highest grade mines in Nevada at one point. We don't think they've found all that's there, and we picked it up for a very reasonable price. So we own it 100%. And then Intrepid, this is kind of a blind find that we made. It's not very far from Isabella Pearl, and we had a discovery hole mid last year, 27 grams, or 27 meters of 160 gram. Again, this is low on the totem pole, but just highlighting the fact all our properties have high grade gold. Ripper, we picked this up, it's more north. It has all the earmarks we want to see, high grade, great geologic structures, etc. So again, coming back to the synergistic approach, if we don't have to build a process at every single property we have, it helps on all fronts. So that's our goal here. Should shorten permit timing, as long as you have federal government that's open to giving you permits. It should decrease capital costs because you're leveraging, for instance, Isabella Pearl. County line and Scarlet will be direct shipping ore. Golden Mile will be a process that takes gold to carbon and shipping the carbon. But that's how we think. Try to get mines into production quickly and for the least amount possible. I'm working with a lot of the same people that I worked with the previous company, where we had a decade of production, profitability, $1 billion in revenue. Teams make everything. It makes this company succeed or not. So I'm pleased that we're working with the same people. And then many in this room know Bill Conrad. He actually was the chairman of the previous company, and I think it's a stamp of approval. He actually left the New York Stock Exchange listed company to come over with us on the OTC. I think that speaks to what he thinks our potential is. So capital structure, as I mentioned, most junior explorers nowhere near production will have hundreds of millions of shares outstanding. Producers, 500 million, 1 billion. We have 24 million shares outstanding. So there's the leverage. You make some money, you can pay a tremendous dividend when you do that. I've done that in the past. Want to do it again. We have no warrants. We have no long-term debt, no equipment financing, no hedging. So we're very clean. Management are large shareholders along with retail. I would used to in my past be up here like, oh, why don't we have gold funds and stuff? Having lived through a brutal bear market a while ago and all the gold funds blow up, they just tear you with them. I'd rather have retail. I think they're far more sticky shareholders. So that's our investment thesis. Looking for gold by experienced management in Nevada, open pit, heap leach, low cost dividends, catalysts, as Dave said, permits, mine construction, new mine production. That'll be the next catalyst I'm looking for. The big question is how fast can Trump unwind Biden's permanent backflow? So I think I have time for questions and we'll open it up. Yes, sir.
Idaho Strategic has got a pretty major valuation compared to you. Do you have an explanation of that?
I don't know who they are. No, I don't.
They're a gold producing company. They produce about 10,000 ounces a year, but they have other natural resources. It seems like your valuation over, even with this latest debacle that you had.
What debacle are we talking about?
In fact, the stock dropped $5.
Well, that's a function of the dividend. You live and die by the sword for the dividend. So for anybody that doesn't know, we used to pay 4 cents a month and now we're down to 1. I'm proud that we're paying a cent still. It's kind of interesting how none of our shareholders say, hey, thanks for that dividend every month, but they'll beat you up when you don't pay it.
Yeah.
But that's life, right? I get it. That's the market we're in. But look, nothing goes straight up.
No, I understand.
And those who are looking for a counter investment to counter that, look, if I stood here in front of you today and I was at a share high, nobody would be interested. Nobody.
But even your valuation previously seemed like it was a little low.
I can tell you why.
Okay.
Biden. When you have a federal administration that just gets in your way for every permit you want to do and doesn't give you your permits, that's been overhanging for 4 years.
So was it the mine life of the current projects that you're mining that worried the market?
No, it's the permits, because we have, between Isabella Pearl, layering on County Line for a couple of years, laying on Golden Mile for a couple of years, all the while finding more like Scarlet, we have runway. But the whole business plan predicates you have a federal administration that will actually issue a permit. It blows up when they don't. So the market absolutely should be scared of Biden. And it's not just us. You got Rio Tinto saying, hey, Trump, please help us. It is countrywide if you operate.
I'm just asking.
So yeah, that's part of it.
The market.
Yeah, that's where I believe it is. The market has known for 4 years we might not get our permit, and they were right. Yep.
So the runway of exploration is important to the valuation of the stock. In other words, the market needs to know that you have a long runway of production in order for it to give you a valuation that is worthy of.
Yeah, in our space, it's 10 years is the magic number. When you have 10 years and they don't care about 11, 12, 13, they want to see increased production. Just for those in here that don't know, we could have mined Isabella Pearl in 1 year. But as a public company, what does that do for you? It's me that held us back to 40,000 ounces. Why? So we had time to discover a county line, to discover a Golden Mile, to delineate it, to buy the equipment, to be in a position to build those. And that's what we've done. Again, with the hiccup of not getting permits. Now we're going to get them. It's just functional win.
So are these additional plays that you're hoping to get permitted, are they 300,000 ounce?
No, they're smaller, much, and not as high grade as Isabella, but Isabella's an anomaly. I mean, we hope to find another one on trend, but we were on the highest grade mines out there. I showed you kind of by comparison our peers. No, but we're also set up to find a big one, like East Camp Douglas. You know, I want to be in the game. East Camp is huge. I want to be in the game long enough that we find it. And to do that, we have to put a bunch of small ones into production. But we hit an East Camp, hypothetically at $1 million. Now you're talking about 10 years of 100,000. If you found 2 million, they're not going to give you the valuation. You got to do 200,000 for 10 years. 10 years is that magic number. But obviously we got derailed with the fact that we couldn't even layer on one of our mines. A mine that you mine it as an aggregate, let that sink in. We're not asking to go build a process. We literally are gonna mine it like a gravel pit, and the statutes say if you have 1 gram of gold, you have to go through the whole permitting process. But if we didn't, I mean, this is being mined as an aggregate, we couldn't get a permit under Biden, that's how bad it was. So, that is the reason the overhang, and always has been. If you joined, you probably have, I would recognize you, you probably joined one of our conference calls. How many times on our conference call do I get asked about permits? Every one of them. Every one of them. How many times do I get asked about the dividend? Could it change? Yes, I say it could. Every one of them. Those are the concerns. And so the dividend cut, you live and die by that sword, right? But someday it goes the other way, you live and die by that sword. And I guarantee you, nobody's gonna call me and say, hey, thanks for that extra dividend. Get on the way up to 4 cents. That's part of it. That's part of it. Good questions, though. Did I get them all?
Yep.
Okay, anybody else have a question? No, yeah.
So how do you really feel about buying?
Yeah, I've just seen the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
This thing seems ignorant about getting a permit, like, you have to permit, like, it's already established, it's not established, but a mine that you created, like, we know that there's gold here, but you can't do like a whole section.
I think the best way to answer your question is the size of deposits we're going after right now. We try to keep them under what's called an EA, environmental assessment. And that's a function of the space that you're disturbing. And if you can do that, you can get your permit quicker. But if you have a bigger, it goes to an EIS, which are guaranteed millions more in cost and many more years in time. So the ones that we're going after, we're all trying to keep low footprint so that it's an EA. Again, we got a permit, no problem under the previous administration.
So that's
The one
why
that-
you're like dot, rather than like, I just want this big circle.
Yeah, they're not gonna let us build a mine off a big circle when we haven't defined it. So what we're defining are smaller end deposits. It's axiomatic, there's smaller deposits in Nevada than bigger ones, right? So, it's just a matter, you wanna be in the game to then find the big one. Very few of our peers will do the mine size we're doing, very few. And if they do, they don't make money at it. We just did Isabella Pearl, which on the big scope of things is small. Produced a lot of money, paid a lot of dividends, because we have tight capital structure. It's just a different concept. We run it like a real business. Unfortunately, in this industry, there's a lot of mining the market. There's a lot of, oh, I have this. They have no intent to ever put it in production. Or they lower their head grade to impress you with millions of ounces, but they know half of those are more ever economic. So, I mean, it's a business approach to this industry. I'm not trying to back in the industry, don't get me wrong. If this goes on YouTube, I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but truly that happens in this industry where so many companies mine the market. We don't, we mine mines. And we do smaller ones, and we want to keep them in an EA so that we can get the permits in a reasonable amount of time. Okay.
Sorry, what size is the EA? How many acres? Not for an EA.
640.
So will you stay under 640?
Mhm.
One section?
Mhm.
Okay.
So I have one final question.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember this or not, but as I'm looking at some of the grades, if I remember right, when we were first talking about Isabella Pearl, you were first developing that, I think the grades at Isabella Pearl ended up being quite a bit better.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not saying that's gonna happen again with the others. I'm just saying that's how I remember.
Well, it's a good point, because in my way of thinking, you have to have those high-grade sniffs in your results.
Yep.
But just so you guys know, when you go to do a resource, they take the high grade and they throw them out. They cap them. So they have a max and they throw them out. Doesn't mean you're not gonna hit them when you mine it. That's exactly what happened with Isabella Pearl. Is all those really high-grade sniffs, the resource, the engineers get together and say, no, you throw them out.
Yeah, because there were quarters that were, the
Yeah.
grades were really high.
Absolutely, but that's just a function of, you have to have some conservatism when you're
Yeah.
going into a resource. It's part and parcel of it. But if you never have those high-grade sniffs to begin with, you'll never have the overperformance. We were never intended to be at Isabella Pearl this long either.
Right.
It's a
Right.
gift that keeps on giving. And I don't think it's the last deposit on this trend. I mean, it's not. Right across the highway was a 300,000 ouncer. We're, 160 plus already, and we have that 10 kilometers of trend. So I think there'll be others. Again, we just need to be in the game long enough. We have to get permits to do that, but be in the game long enough to be the one to find another one.
what's the most recent number on the ounces on the pad?
That referred to my associate grade,
43,000, right?
43.
What's 43,000 times 3,000? More than the
Yeah.
market cap is.
Yeah, but keep in mind, that's residually.
I understand.
It takes longer, but yeah, there's ounces to come off, but it was never the game plan to put this in production and live off residual leakage.
Right.
It was the later. So anyway, yeah, if you want to talk more about Biden, I'm happy to break.
So we're gonna take about a 15